Good morning. Today is November 21st, 2017, and I'm Blair Williams here at the Cumberland County Historical Society, speaking today with Al Speers. So good morning, Al.
Good morning, Blair. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we're kind of focusing today on the Second Presbyterian Church, and I'm just wondering if you could talk about sort of your earliest memories of Second Pres.
Well, I came in, we came in 1967, joined in 1967. My earliest memory was that they had been thinking of moving, relocating for a number of years, and that came to fruition then in the late 60s, or very late 60s, 68 or so. I do remember a congregational meeting where an elder got up and said, "It's time to go." And I often wondered how much he had a great influence on the folks. The pastor, who was James Ferguson, had been, when he was called, he was promised that there would be a relocation. The building, there was no parking. The building grew like Topsy, add a room here, add a room there. You had to go through one room to get to another room. We began a youth program while we were still downtown, and it grew very nicely over the years. Yeah, so those are my memories from 1968 or 9. Yes.
And that youth program, I believe that you worked a little bit with Cree Arnold?
Okay.
Or is that?
All right. Cree Arnold and her husband were the church Sunday school secretaries forever. And in 1968, I was hired to be the director of Christian Ed. So that's where I would meet them and meet her. Right, yes.
So you were saying that the old church on Hanover Street there,
yeah,
was quite crowded, or?
No, it was just, it was not, I think it was this business. You build a sanctuary, that part, and then you add this, and then you add that, and it was not as functional as could be. And the fact that they had talked for some years of relocating. They hadn't maintained it, things like the roof or what have you. So it was in need of either major repairs or to be replaced. And there was no place to park in that location, yes.
What do you remember about the sort of the architecture on the outside of the church?
Oh, a very traditional, box it was. Yes. Then the kitchen was upstairs, and there was a chapel. I think in the early prior days that there was a chapel which was Sunday school would have started in a chapel, I believe, with a mini worship service. That was ended. Maybe I ended it. That was ended. Yes.
So, what part did church life play in sort of your family's?
Yeah, well, it was an important part. We attended very regularly, and we participated in things. My wife would be a Sunday school teacher, and I was the director of Christian Ed from I think 68 to about 75. Yeah, so we participated greatly. Yeah, it was a special situation for us, right?
What was your, you may have already mentioned it, but I'm wondering sort of what your first significant memory of, or your first memory of a significant event at the church was.
I think I mentioned it when I talked about the elder saying it was time to go. Yeah, at that time, right. And then it was significant when I was hired to work part-time. I was a school teacher, but it was a part-time job. So that was, right, and I was kind of the, what word should I say, the one who would take the past way of doing things and change them a bit. I wasn't a radical, but there were things from the 1900, the early 1900s still being done, and it seemed that it was time for a change. Another big event, which was not necessarily mine, was Reverend Ferguson's, was this youth program that we had. Yeah, we had a significant number of young people. And particularly when we moved out to Garland Drive, I would count it, we had 120 young people. And it was so popular with the Catholics that St. Pat's moved CCD classes till Wednesday, so that the Catholic kids couldn't come. But that was a big deal, starting at downtown. Yeah.
Could you describe a little bit, sort of the discussion? I don't know how much you were involved in it. The discussion between moving from Hanover Street to Garland?
No, I wasn't. I was a new member, and I was not involved, and I don't know, what a committee would do. And our ruling body is called a session, and I was not privy to those things.
But you didn't hear. No. Do you remember what the reaction was?
Well, when we did it, I think we lost 17 members, and several of those were single ladies who lived downtown, didn't even drive, and so they would then, I think, walk up to First Press, and do that.
What was your reaction then with the move?
It was fine. It was time to go. It really was. It was. So we bought 10 acres. We own a whole block over there on Garland Drive, and built the building, and have tremendous parking, which is good. And the building is so much more functional than it was. I mean, it's that you don't walk through one room to get to the other room and so forth. Yes, it was great.
Do you remember your reaction on first seeing the new church building?
No, I don't remember mine. When I show visitors around, I say to them, "Can you imagine Presbyterians doing this in 1969?" Have you ever been out there?
I haven't been in the building, but I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. The derogatory statement made was, "It looks like a sewer plant." Right, or it's a country club. But the sanctuary is round. There's a big round building room on the end, 2 floors of a round building. And the sanctuary, I've gotten so used to the sanctuary that to go to a church, which I call a box, is uncomfortable. The sanctuary is open, it's slanted a bit, so you can see and write. Yeah.
You've mentioned, is it Reverend Ferguson?
Yes.
Can you speak on some of the other pastors that have been there over the years?
Well, Reverend Ferguson was replaced by Reverend Gilchrist, a very learned gentleman. Taught at Dickinson part-time when he was here, and so on. And I think he still teaches out in Pittsburgh. Marvelous sermons. I really enjoyed just sitting down with him and talking with him. Yes, he and I got along fine, and we were sort of on the same wavelength that way. I'll back up. I should back up a bit. In 1973, the first associate pastor came, and his name was John Larson. He came under the business of, he's an organist and music director. So he came on, theoretically, 70% of his time would be music and 30% of his time would be pastoral time. When Mr. Ferguson, before he came to Carlisle, was at a place called Eddington, north of Philadelphia. And Jack Larson is a few years younger, and he was at Princeton Seminary, and he would come over and be a weekend warrior. Therefore, Mr. Ferguson and Larson were acquainted. And I'm sure when the congregation began to say, we need help, you need help, Mike, that here is the fit. Yeah. And they fit together fine. They didn't agree on everything, which two people aren't going to agree on, but they just fit together wonderfully. We had Jack came in 73, Mr. Ferguson retired in 96, so they had 23 years of working together. Yes. Jack has a pastoral feeling for music. The hymns have to fit the sermon and they fit in the service, and he can write music. He writes up some and arranges a great deal. So he was quite an addition to us. Yes. And then from Jim Gilchrist to Jeff Gabelius that I work with. He is a non-stoppable fountain of ideas. Right. We should do this. We ought to try that. Yeah, he is. And he is so fired up. It's almost the sermons. I think he needs to slow down a little bit. Just cool it a little bit, Jeff. But I've worked with him, and we've been get along. Yes. I've been on the payroll full-time or part-time for 27 years. Different, Christian Ed. I was in the custodial work. I did that. I've done that, and it's okay. So that's my relationship with them.
We just mentioned that you've done some custodial work, and you were the director of Christian Ed for.
Well, I'll explain that.
Okay.
All right. In 70, 71, I went through personal turmoil regarding school. Am I doing the right thing? Is this proper? Should I look at another place and a different thing? And so I resigned from school and I went to seminary for 2 years, half-time. And in 72, the custodians stopped working. And so could Al be Christian Ed and custodian so I could go to seminary? And I began to do that. And then my wife and I would share and so on. So I was in that position from 72 to 85 with my wife. One time when my daughter was going to Dickinson, she helped and when she could get a little job like that. And then I came back and we now call it program manager. It was Sexton when I first started. I came back and part-time did that again. So I've had 27 years of employment there.
Well, I was also wondering, were there any other committees or boards that you served on?
No, not really. No.
Any other position, like fundraisers or?
No, I've been limited to
just the
Christian Ed and Sexton.
Okay.
Yeah.
We spoke about Cree and her husband earlier, but I'm wondering, you mentioned your wife and your daughter would help you occasionally.
Yeah.
Or are there any other people that you remember working with over those 27 years?
Yeah, so the main one is in the last, when I say the last 10, that was from 2000 to 2010. A young lady named Deborah Brandberg. I came on as the, quote, program, they changed the name from section to program coordinator, and I came on and she was working at that time as the sexton. And then we have worked together, me paid till 2010, and even now we work together. I start every day over there at 7 or so, and when she comes in, we set up rooms or something. And then I work with her regarding alarm setting, regarding meetings. I covered a memorial service last Saturday when she was away, and so on. So she's the number one person that I've worked with, and still do a little bit, yes.
Over your 27 years, I'm wondering, were there any events or church issues that stand out?
The one is back in the 70s. Let's go back to the 1780s. There was what was called the First Great Awakening. You're acquainted with that term? Fine. Jonathan Edwards. In the 1830s was the Second Great Awakening. And the minister at the First Presbyterian Church was becoming a Methodist. And that is, Presbyterians say God chooses you. Methodists say you choose God. And that's what brought about the formation of Second Pres. A number of people said, no, you're wrong, we're leaving. And they have somehow cooked it a little bit that they got some money. And that's how we moved down to Second Pres, down to Pomfret Street in 1833. All right. So then I'm going to come to, it's never stated this way, but the Third Great Awakening in the 70s, where we went from a staid service to a more, not that we did, I'll get back to that, how to describe it, speaking in tongues, wanting to be immersed when you're baptized, not sprinkled, and so forth. And Reverends Ferguson and Larson held the church. Churches split over that, and they held the church together by giving those people freedom to do their own thing in the evening on Sunday. And we did not have a big split like some churches did. So that was a significant one that we had.
What about community issues? Were you ever involved in any community issues or that the church was involved in?
Not as much that I could think of. Reverend Gabelius is doing more, trying more with community than we did in the past. Yes. We've had some events up at Hope Station. Some other cooperation with black churches. Yeah. I think back in the turmoil of the 70s, individuals would have been involved. I cannot recall the church as a body.
The next question I have here is do you recall a time when faith played a particularly important part in your life?
Well, I think the main one was that going to seminary and what have you. It didn't work, so it sort of ruined me financially for years. But that would be the most significant event. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so I mean, you mentioned that you did have that sort of moment when you went to seminary, and you said it didn't work. So I'm wondering how has that sort of your faith journey sort of influenced your life or played out over the years?
I was brought up in a Christian home,
Mm-hmm.
so it was all my life with it. I think, you wonder why I do what I do, sort of things, and how what behind that is the Christian faith that, love your neighbor, treat people decently, and I think that would be what it is. I try to do that, and I'm not bragging when I say I'm in Garland High School full-time every day to help the teachers. I help the teachers, I help the kids, and I help myself. Let's do it that way. But I think just all of the Christian background is treat people decently.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it 100. You don't do it 100% of the time. But yeah, that would be it for me. And right.
Well, I think that's all I have in terms of questions about Second
I
Presbyterian.
have more to say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. When we came to Second Pres in '67, to me it was a congregation of doctors, lawyers, and Indian chiefs. Now we have gone through a transition where that is not true. If I can use the white collar, blue collar, and light blue collar analogy. Now we have many people who wear a light blue collar or even a blue collar. It has totally changed. I can only think of one lawyer, active lawyer. We have no doctors who are actively involved, and we have the dentist, the husband and wife dentist, Sproul and Wong. No medical doctors. Okay, so the doctors and the lawyers and the Indian chiefs are gone. Not many big executives. We had the president of Maslin's was a long-term member, and so on. So the whole demographic has changed. And no judgment about it. Okay. The other thing that has changed significantly is the interest in education, Sunday school, or whatever time of the week it was. I said a bit ago we had 120 kids on Wednesday nights, and Sunday school full of kids, and we have hardly anybody now. Yeah, that just from from kindergarten to grade 5, there might only be 10 kids in the whole set now. And we have gone through difficulties with youth workers, and there's practically very few high school kids anymore. We're really upside down. More adults go to Sunday school than young people do. The change of the family situation, and soccer is more important than church, or it's more important than Sunday school. There's 9 million activities the kids are involved in, and they get for a great deal, they get priority over it. Yeah. So that's the viewing of the demographic change, and which brings up the lack of parents bringing their kids and whatever, even coming themselves. We have gone through some trials and tribulations to have a contemporary service. We took the round room on the upper story, if you look, and spent a great deal in resourcing that and fixing that up for a contemporary service. And we were doing it once a month, and a leader left. Another leader came for a short while. It wasn't a good fit. Another leader came for a short while, and we haven't had a contemporary service in 6 months. And it's just there. So that has occurred. Yeah. Those are the changes that we're involved in. Right. Yeah. I can't think of anything else.
Well, I guess I'm wondering a little bit. I mean, you've mentioned sort of the demographic changes.
Yeah.
But you've also been involved quite a bit, sort of in the community with working at schools.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned. So, is there? I mean, do you see that playing out at the schools as well, or just I guess in terms of sort of shifting priorities, or?
Oh, I think, yeah. That has to be, you know, and I can be cynical.
Yeah.
I have to practice at it. But as I understand, in Europe, the churches are empty.
Mm-hmm.
The secularization, and it's creeping across the Atlantic, too. I mean, when you find data about people who don't care about religion, yes. But it just simply changed a great deal, right? I see that.
And then, so I just remembered the story you were telling me before we started recording about how when you first came to,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Carlisle or the area,
Carlisle.
where a teacher or colleague of yours went to First Pres. I was wondering if you could tell that story.
Well, they had a minister there for 30 years. And I don't think things were, now don't tell this to First Pres, but I think things were a little iffy.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said to him, you know, Dick, what do I do? And he said, go to second. I think it was the dynamic nature of James Ferguson versus the man who had been there, or who was there, yeah. And I think that was it. Because there is I think there has always been quite a difference in the congregations, I think, between first and second. I think. Don't let them hear that. But I tease him about that once in a while. I remind him of that. Yeah. But there was no question in my wife's mind, coming from White Clay Creek Presbyterian Church in Newark, Delaware. Well, where's the Presbyterian Church? And we were directed there, which is perfect. Yeah.
And it's been a good fit ever since?
Yeah, it has been. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It has worked out.
Well, actually, you know, was White Creek...
White Clay Creek.
White, yeah. Was that similar to Second Pres, or was it a bit of an adjustment period for you?
It was... you're asking me
I'm sorry.
to go back to 1960. I can't remember the difference. We didn't have any trouble adjusting here. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, we could fit in right away.
Now, have you been back to Newark since then?
I wouldn't. No.
So you don't know how...
What's anything about it? No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
All right. Well, again, that's all the questions I had related to Second Presbyterian. I mean, is there anything else that you want to mention, or something I should have asked but didn't?
No. I think we mentioned it earlier that Reverend Gabelius wants us to be more involved with the community, right? But I understand that, for instance, that there are two ministeriums, white and black, and they haven't ever, I don't think they've ever cooperated very much. And he's certainly been trying, and we've been, with these couple of events at Hope Station, some going to services over across from St. Pat's on Pomfret Street. Bethlehem, I don't know. No, Bethel's on West. Doesn't matter. There's one down across from
West Street?
No, on Pomfret across from Old St. Pat's.
Okay.
They're working, cooperating with them, so making some effort to, they're using the word One Carlisle, and I don't know how widespread that is, right, but to do that. And to get people, I concentrate on Hope Station, to get people to go up and help the kids with their homework and have meal and a couple of picnics together and what have you. And
I mean, it sounds like kind of a balancing act too. I mean, 'cause as you've mentioned, you've been pretty much in a high school or for the past,
Forever.
Yeah. But so how do you balance that with, I guess you're not there as a representative of Second Presbyterian, but you're still contributing to the community.
Yeah, no,
Just thank you for coming in and speaking today.